This episode of Talking with Tech is brought to you by Smartbox, assistive technology that inspires you to be who you are. You can find them at thinksmartbox.com. Welcome back once again to Talking with Tech. This is Lucas Stuber. Unfortunately, Chris and Rachel could not be with us here today, but fortunately, Rachel is with us for the interview, which I'm very excited to share today with Miss Eva Sweeney. But Eva Sweeney is a person with CP who's also a consultant for the show Speechless, as well as an author and an advocate. Now, Speechless stands out in its representation of disability in that it's realistic and funny, but without being dehumanizing. And historically, the media hasn't done a great job of portraying people with disabilities in a way that is realistic without, being dehumanizing. Paul Hunt in 1991 did a study where he identified some of the stereotypes that are typically used among the media to represent people with disability. And some of them that he found were pitiable, pathetic, as an object of curiosity, as evil, laughable, as a burden, non-sexual, certainly, and unable to participate in activities of daily living. Here at Talking with Tech, so much of what we talk about is indirectly about those things, right? We talk about using modern tools to mitigate the barriers that can keep people with disabilities from fully participating in everything that they would like to do, and to do so on their own terms. Today, we're proud to share our interview with Eva because not only does she participate unapologetically, but she does so on her own terms and encourages others to do the same in myriad ways. Well, we talk a lot about augmentative communication and assistive technology, but it's important to remember that those who use those tools are neither defined by them, nor are they the most important parts of their identity. We are none of us defined by a single point among the many that constitute ourselves. Rather, we are each of us a constellation of strengths and weaknesses and preferences and aversions and knowledge and ignorance. As clinicians, we must use these tools to provide access to communication while still employing a whole person approach to recognize that while they are working with a client, yes, or a student, we are first and foremost working with a human. With that, I'm happy to share Rachel and my's interview with Eva Sweeney right after the break. Today's show is sponsored by Smartbox, makers of speech-generating devices carrying their signature AAC software Grid 3, which is one of the most popular worldwide. Grid 3 used to only be available for Windows, but now with Grid for iPad, the options for continuity across platforms have really opened up. For thousands of kids and adults around the world, using Grid 3 gives them the ability to really participate in all forms of communication with as much control as possible. Grid 3 does that by seamlessly incorporating AAC grid sets from categorized symbols, including word power, developed by Nancy Inman, Pod from Gail Porter, and SuperCore, everything from literacy curriculum to text-based grids, all while having access to social media, photos, movies, phone calls, texts, environmental control, all in one place. All these features of Grid 3 evolve with the person while they communicate, participate, and be who they are. From iPad to eye gaze, Grid 3 is an incredibly comprehensive AAC solution. Go to thinksmartbox.com for a free 60-day download of Grid 3. It's one of the great options to consider for every person needing AAC. My name's Lucas Stuber. I'm joined today by Rachel Madel out in sunny California. How are you, Rachel?
I'm great.
And we're overjoyed today to be joined by Eva Sweeney. How are you?
Good.
Well, Eva, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you here today.
I'm Eva. I'm 35 years old. I identify as a genderqueer female who is also queer. I am butch. My pronouns are she/her. I also have a physical disability called cerebral palsy, which for me means I use a wheelchair to get around. Since I'm nonverbal, I spell out things I want to say on a letterboard with a laser pointer attached to a hat. For the podcast, you will be hearing my aide, Tim, that's me, read off written answers. For follow-up questions, I will spell on my board. I'm a sex and disability advocate. I travel all around the country giving workshops on these topics. I also teach for the online school, O School, which focuses on all types of sexual education. I'm also a consultant on ABC's Speechless. It's a show about a family who has a 16-year-old teenager with CP. They totally use my communication system, one that I created, for the show. And after the creator saw what a good relationship I had with my aides, he created an aide character for the show. So Cedric Yarborough has me to thank for his job. He has said this before.
So tell us a little bit about you. I mean, you said that the show Speechless, like they use the system that you used to communicate. What has that been like for you? How do you communicate?
I have a LETTER BOA board with the ALPHA, the alphabet, and COMM, common WOR, words, and IPO, point, with a LAS, laser, P, pointer, A, at, is that right? No, A, T, attached to a C, A, attached to a cap, S, I, N, C, since I have the most C, control in my HE, in my head. Yes.
Great. And this is something that you designed yourself in terms of the word lists and everything, or?
Yes. I used to use my LE, left HA, hand, on my board, but that was TOTI, tiring, and SL, slow. So when I was like 16, I got a hat and a laser pointer and started using it that way. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this. Is I loved what you said about your good relationship with your aide. I can tell that you and Tim seem to have a good friendship, right? What has your relationship been like with speech language pathologists over the years, good or bad?
Well, my first speech therapist worked with me from age 2 to 10, and I think he quickly knew I was never going to speak, so we focused on grammar and sentences and talking with text and writing. So I really have him to thank for being as eloquent as I am. After him, I didn't have speech therapy because everyone knew I was not going to talk, and I was very good at my board by then.
Okay, so you had speech therapy sort of early on in school, it sounds like, and then maybe not anything later than that. Okay.
He was at HOM, at home speech therapy.
Wow, this is amazing. I mean, you've created this whole awesome system that seems to be really effective.
Yes.
For you. What I'm sorry to sort of spin off the questions a little bit, but you mentioned this awesome relationship that you've had with aides in your life. Is that something that you feel like you've always had going for you? Have you had any particularly influential individuals? As
a kid, my parent, I picked people who they thought would be be fun, and they did not have any experience with people with disabilities. So when I started I hiring my own aides at 16, age of 16. IFO followed that. Yeah.
So by prioritizing fun people?
Not only fun, obviously, but people who didn't have any experience with people with disabilities, right? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. How long have you guys been working together?
2 years.
Awesome.
But we are looking for a new person. Do you want me to say how Eva likes to work with people for 1 to 2 years because you get to know somebody really well, and Eva oftentimes finishes working with somebody before you're fed up with each other, so they can stay.
I can completely relate to that for sure. So are you guys with each other every day?
9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I have part-time aides who work in the evenings and on the weekends. Yes.
Perfect. So Eva, I want to talk a little bit more about your experience with Speechless, which as a speech language pathologist who specializes in AAC, I just love that show. How did you get involved with that?
One of my friends who teaches at CSUN. Yeah.
Perfect. Are you in California?
Yes.
Whereabouts?
Los Angeles.
Oh, that's where I am.
Cool. She was talking to Scott, the creator of Speechless. Is it Silveri? Yeah, Scott Silveri, the creator of Speechless. And she said, you should totally talk to Eva. So, so we met for coffee, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. That's really cool. I really love that show, and I think it's really it's doing a lot of really great things to showcase how people, who are nonverbal are able to communicate in unique ways, and that's really awesome.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like you've been pretty influential with the show as far as they're using the system that you created. What does your role there look like now? Are you still consulting?
I do read a handful of scripts and make sure nothing is completely off or offensive. I obviously can't speak for the entire disability community, but I know it generally would get people upset. Like, one idea was to have JJ learn to walk, and I definitely vetoed that because it would have reinforced society's importance on walking. Also, some people might have seen that as an attempt to, quote-unquote, fix JJ instead of embracing the character's disability. I offered instead the story of JJ liking a girl, which was a much more age-appropriate scenario, and while very quote-unquote normal, it is unfortunately not normal to see people with disabilities represented that way on TV. Also, one time Scott, who's the creators of the show, emailed me about an argument JJ and Kenneth, JJ's aide, have because he felt that it was not serious enough. But I reassured him that their argument was about an important and real issue in the disability community. It was about not respecting the AIDS V, right? No. Personal time. Like, AJ wanted Kenneth to take him to a party when Kenneth was not working.
I just love everything you just said. You hit on two really, really big pieces. Like I love, first of all, the advocacy for the AIDS personal time, and that gets overlooked absolutely. And I see that often also in the school systems where, sometimes, safety can be at risk for, how overextended people can be, and people don't recognize that often. But then I also love your bit about the walk. I'm glad you vetoed the walking thing, and that's coming from somebody who works a lot in the autism community, for example. A lot of the language around the cure and those things can be very harmful. And so that's something that honestly I hadn't thought of in CP before, but that's a great point.
Thanks. And then also, so Eva will read scripts, and for the first and second season, you went to the writer's room, and the writers at the B, E, G at the beginning of the season, and all the writers and Scott just kind of asked a bunch of questions and talked about ideas they were having and if they, made sense and if they worked and what Eva's experiences were. Yeah.
That's super cool. That makes me like the show even more too, to know, how involved you were in the process, and to have actual stakeholders sort of like involved in the planning. I won't say negative things about certain shows on the autism side again, but that isn't always the case.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to ask you about the speechless stuff, but I know that's not all that you do, right? So we want to hear more about you. What are some things that you're really passionate about?
Right here. I am passionate about letting society know that people with disabilities are sexual. So many times we are seen as not wanting to date or have a sex life, and that's not true. I'm also working on teaching people that people with disabilities can be straight, gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, and so on. And that we just need to be a little more creative in the bedroom, but we can and do have awesome sex lives. I do this now on O School, which is an awesome online free free site with all kinds of CL classes about sex. Yeah.
That's great. I think a lot of folks, potentially in our position as therapists or whoever, are really hesitant to get into that topic, right? It's a discussion that's really challenging to have for a lot of folks. What advice would you give for someone who's maybe working in adult transition or something like that, just to have these conversations?
Start SLO. Start slow. Talk about THI things like DA, dating, and FOLL, follow their lead, and don't judge, just in general. Yes.
Yep, that's really good advice. And we'll definitely have to get the link to your website, Eva, so we can put it in the show notes so people can find you.
Please.
Yeah, we'll get that set up for sure.
I have one more question, Eva. Most of our listeners are speech language pathologists, and I would love for you to give some insight into what should a speech therapist who's working with someone who's nonverbal know? What's kind of a key takeaway?
The one thing I would say is don't just jump to high-tech AAC devices. So many people, especially kids, would do better with a picture or letterboard. They're much more portable, and unlike an AAC device, if you drop them or spill something on it, it is not very expensive to replace. Also, it is more easy for other kids to relate to because they don't have to sit and wait for the kid to spell out what they want to say. Yeah. Even kids who can not read all, can LIST can listen, and FO follow along when their AI aid VOI voices what the kid is SP is spelling. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I think we're really quick now with technology being so amazing to just jump to high tech use, but we forget that sometimes low tech supports are some of the best, still some of the best ways to communicate.
Well, and it sounds also like, you having invested so much of your own, energy into building your own system. I imagine that is something that's made you more proficient with it?
Yes. And also just yes and no can go a long way. You mean just asking yes and no questions? Yes. And KID kids can definitely do that. Yeah, so not like asking yes and no questions and nodding yes and no. Yes.
What are your plans for the future? Any exciting projects that are upcoming besides all of your amazing work on Speechless?
I am focusing on promoting my online class, Cripping Up Sex with Eva, on O School, and I have a weekly Q&A on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I also do other classes on more specific topics, so check out O School.
Yeah, we'll definitely put all of that information in the show notes so our listeners can check it out.
Is that the Q&A? Is that on O School?
Yes, it's every week. It's that class is every week. Yes.
Cool. Okay, that would be really interesting.
And I do more SPEC specific TO topics on there too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. This has been incredibly informative. I'm blown away not only by everything that you're doing in terms of activism, both within Speechless, but also within the the sexual and the disability community, but also the way that you're able to share all that, what you've done in terms of building your own communication system. I mean, this is all incredibly inspiring.
I have a SHO short 30 second VI video about my BOA, about my board.
We would love to see that or share it. Absolutely.
Yes. Cool.
For those of you listening, we're going to have all those resources available. Please feel free to go to tech.speechscience.org, and we'll have, hopefully this video from Eva, as well as links to her website and the information about O School. Of course, we recommend the show Speechless. We're big fans around here. We think it's great that this community is getting the visibility that it deserves finally. But once again, for Speech Science is Talking with Tech, my name is Lucas Stuber, joined by Rachel Madel and Eva Sweeney with Aid Tim. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you all next week.
Thank you for having us.
Well, thanks so much to Eva Sweeney for joining us. That was a really unique and fascinating interview, and I know that we definitely gained a lot out of it over here at Talking with Tech. Myself and Rachel were honored to have her on. So look forward to more interviews, of course, in the future. We'd also love to hear what you think. So come track us down either on our Facebook page or our Facebook group, both called Talking with Tech. We'd love for you to join the conversation and let us know what you think. Also, if you do enjoy what we do, or have thoughts that you'd like to share, drop us a review at iTunes. That helps other people to find us and to find the information that we share, which hopefully is helpful, to a lot of folks out there. So again, this is Lucas Stuber for Talking with Tech on behalf of myself, Rachel Madel, and Chris Begay. We'll talk to you next week.